Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Everyone has their favorites. That's why any debate over what makes the only movies of all time can take hours. Can there ever be one list to rule them all? A canon, as critics wish to call it, updated with today's game changers that might glance upon all tastes, all genres, all countries, all eras, balancing impact with importance, brains with heart. The challenge was daunting. So here we go, top 20 greatest movies of all time. And the list begins with 1. The Godfather. From the wise guys of Goodfellas to the Sopranos, all crime dynasties that came after The Godfather are descendants of the Corleones. Francis Ford Coppola's work of art is that of the ultimate patriarch of the mafia genre. A monumental line sets the operatic Mario Puzo adaptation in motion, before Coppola's epic morphs into a chilling dismantling of the American dream. The corruption-soaked story follows a strong immigrant family grappling with the paradoxical values of rain and religion. Those moral contradictions are crystallized during a legendary baptism sequence, superbly edited in parallel to the murdering of 4 rivaling dons. 2. Seven Samurai. It's the simplest 207 minutes of cinema you'll ever sit through. On the soul of frameworks, a poor farming community pools its resources to rent samurai to protect them from the brutal bandits who steal its harvest. Akira Kurosawa amounts a finely drawn epic, by turns absorbing, funny, and exciting. Of course, the action sequences stir the blood. The final showdown within the rain is unforgettable, but this is often really a study in human strengths and foibles. Toshiro Mifune is great because of the half-crazed, self-styled samurai, but it's Takashi Shimura's Yoda-like leader who gives the film its emotional center. 3. In the Mood for Love. Can a film really be an instant classic? Anyone who watched Within the Mood for Love when it had been released in 2000 may have said yes. The second this romance opens, you sense you're within the hands of a master. One Kar-wai guides us through the narrow streets and stairs of 60s Hong Kong and into the lives of 2 neighbors who discover their spouses are having an affair, as they imagine and partly reenact how their partners might be behaving. They fall for each other while remaining determined to respect their wedding vows. Loaded longingly, the film benefits from no but 3 cinematographers, who together create an intense sense of intimacy, while the faultless performances shiver with sexual tension. 4. His Girl Friday. Calling this one the peak of screwball comedy could even be too limiting. Among the very top-flight movies, directed by German filmmaker Howard Hawks, His Girl Friday is his most romantic and most verbose. Though the laconic Hawks would downplay his own proto-feminism throughout his life, the film is additionally his most liberated. Strong women who had jobs and ran with newshounds were simply what he wanted to see. Most wonderfully, this comedy best celebrates the rule of wit. He, or more often, she with the sharpest tongue wins. If you're keen on words, you'll love this movie. 5. Do the Right Thing. Spike Lee's bitterly funny, ultimately tragic fresco of a Brooklyn neighborhood during one sweltering summer day was hugely controversial at the time. Critics dinged Lee for his depiction of an uprising in the wake of a police killing. The movie has lost none of its relevance or power. If anything, it's gained some. But the filmmaking is what makes this a classic, particularly the energy, wit, and elegance with which Lee presents this microcosm and therefore the social forces at play inside it. 6. The Rules of the Game. Jean Renoir cemented his virtuosity with this pitch-perfect study of social strata eruptions among the ditzy, idle rich, close to being blown sideways by World War II. Affairs among aristocrats and servants alike bloom during a week-long hunting visit to a rustic manor, where the sole crime is to trade frivolity with sincerity. Renoir captures his sparklingly astute ensemble cast with fluid, deep-focused camera movements, innovations that inspire directors from Wells to Robert Altman. 7. Alien. If all it did was to launch a franchise centered on Sigourney Weaver's fierce survivor, Ridley Scott's claustrophobic, deliberately paced sci-fi horror classic would still be cemented in the film canon. But Alien claims masterpiece status with its subversive gender politics, its shocking chestburster centerpiece, and industrial designer H.R. Giger's strangely elegant double-jawed creature, a nightmarish vision of hostility, and one among cinema's most unforgettable pieces of pure craft. 8. Breathless. Film critic Jean-Luc Godard's seismic directing debut may be a bravado deconstruction of the gangster picture that also reinvented movie-making itself. It features cubistic jump cuts, restless handheld camera work, location shoots, eccentric pacing, and self-conscious asides about painting, poetry, pop culture, literature, and film. a sexy fling between penny thief Jean-Paul Belmondo and Sorbonne-bound Gamine Jean-Severed Morps into an unusually touching, existential meditation. It's Pulp Fiction, but alchemically profound. 9. The Conformist. In Mussolini's Italy, a repressed homosexual joins the fascist party so as to blend in and conceal his true self. Part psychoanalysis session, part colorful genre fantasia. Director Bernardo Bertolucci's enormously influential drama journeys through different styles and aesthetics, as much as Orson Welles' Citizen Kane did with the films of the 20s, 30s, and early 40s. The Conformist offers a powerful compendium of cinematic techniques from the eras preceding it. 10. 2001, A Space Odyssey. The greatest film ever made began with the meeting of two brilliant minds, Kubrick and sci-fi seer Arthur C. Clarke. I understand he's a nut who lives in a tree in India somewhere, noted Kubrick when Clarke's name came up, alongside those of Asimov, Robert A. Heinlein, and Bradbury, as a possible writer for his planned sci-fi epic. Clarke was actually living in Ceylon, but the pair met, hit it off, and forged a story of technological progress and disaster that steeped in humanity. Altogether, its brilliance, weakness, courage, and mad ambition. 11. Grand Illusion. There's never a nasty time to revisit one among Jean Renoir's great masterpieces. But this current era of populists, nationalists, and shouty rabble-rousers feels like a particularly good one. Set during a German prison camp during World War I, the film lays bare the fault lines of sophistication and nationality among a gaggle of French prisoners and their German captors, and involves the conclusion that each one that basically matters is man's nobility toward his fellow man. 12. City Lights. Charlie Chaplin's total vision remains awe-inspiring. He wrote, directed, produced, edited, and starred in his own movies, which he also scored with an orchestra. And when those cameras were rolling, they captured a self-made icon with a global audience. Still, City Lights was something else. Chaplin, reluctant to offer up the visual techniques he'd mastered, insisted on making his new comedy a silent film whilst viewers were growing thirsty for sound. 13. The Searchers. Showing some personal growth also as a filmmaking craft, Ford makes some amends for his appearance in D.W. Griffith's virulently racist The Birth of a Nation with this landmark western. It's a story of hatred slowly giving thanks to compassion that strips away the toxic myths of the old frontier via the swaggering but broken-down figure of Ethan Edwards. Edwards is not any white-hatted Shane type, but an embittered war veteran who hunts his own niece with the intention of killing her for the crime of having been assimilated with the Comanche. The shot of Edwards framed there in doorway is one among the foremost famous and most mimicked in cinema. 14. Pulp Fiction. What's the best part of Pulp Fiction? The twist contest at Jackrabbit Slim's, Bruce Willis versus the Gimp, Jules's Ezekiel chapter 25 verse 17 monologue. Quentin Tarantino's film earns curiosity with its grabby movie moments, but claims all-time status with its spellbinding atronological plotting, insanely quotable dialogue, and a correct understanding of the system of weights and measures. Pulp Fiction marked its generation as deeply as did Star Wars before it. It's a flourish of 90s indie attitude that also feels fresh despite a legion of chatty imitators. 15. Chinatown. Director Roman Polanski and screenwriter Robert Towne took a modestly sleazy noir setup and turned it into a meditation on the horrors of American history and rapacious capitalism. The film also sports an ideal cast, with a top-of-his-game Jack Nicholson as a cynical private detective, an impossibly alluring Faye Dunaway because the enchantress with a past so dark her final revelation still shocks, and therefore the legendary Huston because the monstrous millionaire at the guts of it all. 16. Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Prevent Worrying and Love the Bomb. So much of Stanley Kubrick's genius was conceptual, and this one asks his most audacious question: what if the planet came to an end? And it had been hilarious. Nuclear annihilation was a topic during which Kubrick immersed himself, reading virtually every unclassified text. His conclusion was grim. There would be no winning. Via darkest comedy and an unhinged Sellers playing 3 separate parts, Kubrick made his point. 17. Under the Skin. Hypnotic, bewitching, thought-provoking, disturbing, horrifying. However you react thereto, you will not forget Jonathan Glazer's startling adaptation of Mitchell Faber's Woman Who Fell to Earth novel. Using her celebrity in a radical way, Scarlett Johansson is perfectly cast as an alien in human form who roams Glasgow, trying to select men in her van. It was shot guerrilla style on the streets of the Scottish city, so look out for the footage of genuinely baffled passers-by. 18. Apocalypse Now. Francis Ford Coppola's evergreen Vietnam War classic proves war is swell, as assassin Martin Sheen heads upriver to kill renegade Colonel Marlon Brando. En route, there's surfing, an exciting helicopter raid, napalm-smelling tigers and Playboy bunnies, until Sheen steps off the boat and into a special zone of madness. Or is it genius? Who knows at this point? Well, to get your answers, you have to watch this movie. 19. The Shining. Our list doesn't lack for Stanley-covered movies. Still, it's shocking to remember that The Shining, so redolent of the director's pet themes of maze-like obsession and the banality of evil, was once considered a minor work. It's since come to represent the foremost concentrated blast of Kubrick's total command. He's the god of the film, steady coming around corners and making the audience notice that he was born to redefine horror. Even if we can't roll with the crackpot fan theories about how Kubrick allegedly faked the Apollo moon landing, we'll readily admit that this film contains cosmic multitudes. 20. Get Out. Watch this space. Jordan Peele's newly minted horror classic is certain to rise within the rankings. Taking cues from Grandmaster George A. Romero and his counterculture-defining Night of the Living Dead, Peele infused white liberal guilt with a scary racial subtext. The sunken place is precisely the type of metaphor that only horror movies can exploit to the fullest. This movie is a must-watch, with last one having concluding this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you take, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and head. That way I can't to never miss any update.